Welcome to another biblically based look into today's news from Christian Voice New Zealand. Now here's Mike Bain.
Hi, I'm not surprised when somebody tells me they're tired these days, stressed even. This world is changing at such a rapid pace, even I can't keep up with it. Yeah, I remember my parents saying something similar back in the 60s, but if they thought the cultural changes they saw because of rock and roll, flower power, drugs like marijuana, cocaine and LSD, along with the girls popping the contraceptive pill and the explosion of free, unadulterated sex, it was mind-blowing for them. Politically back then, though, the generation was divided into two camps. You were either left or right. If you were left, you were typically from a blue-collar, manual working background, socio-economically poor, often berating the wealthy, and radical in your thinking, and a bit of a socialist. On the political right, you were a socio-economically well-off, a free marketeer, a capitalist, but you were conservative in your outlook. You know, I'm only glad my parents are not around today to see the results of what was an insignificant cultural ideal which started back then, which is now having a major impact worldwide. I'm talking about a quiet revolution to overthrow a society without the use of force, military or political power. Today we recognise this subversive idea as the Long March through the institutions. What started out as a slogan, I guess the 60s had lots of them, ban the bomb, free love, peace, but the Long March, a phrase used as a reference to a prolonged struggle of the Chinese communists, which included a physical long march of their army across China back in 1934. But the author of the slogan, communist student activist Rudi Dutschke, around 1967 described a strategy for establishing the conditions for the revolution to subvert society by infiltrating institutes such as the professionals, by infiltrating the idea of Marxism through the schools, universities, media and the church. Dutschke was encouraged by the German-American-born writer and philosopher Herbert Marcuse, who in his 1972 book Counter-Revolution and the Revolt thought the theory of a quiet revolution was possible, and so it started. The strategy was what we call the long game. Rather than striking and causing anarchy, the idea was to infiltrate rather than learning to do a job, but how it was done. And this they did with the professions. They learned about things like the mass media, computerization, education, production. They were over everything and no one noticed. The Long March included the concerted effort to build a counter-organisation or institution. So it's no surprise today when we see how much influence the left-leaners have. For years we've allowed our children to be influenced and radicalised by teachers within the education system, not forgetting the entertainment industry. It should be no surprise to you that it is now that the educated, wealthy, who are thinkers of the left ideologies. It's almost been like a pendulum swing. But that is exactly how the march through the institutions by the Marxists work. It's slow, but it hasn't quite got there yet. For attitudes to change, you need to start at the beginning of a generation. So, if you're a parent of preschoolers, you can see how the curriculum is now radicalising your child. Is it any wonder our education success figures are low and children are opting out of school? It's because the system no longer teaches them how to read, write and think. If the preschool book, The Gay BC, isn't enough to convince you where your child is being taken, you need to wake up. The march has gone through the entertainment industry, using the gay agenda, and forces homosexuality or alternate lifestyles to be accepted as normal. The march has gone through the halls of Christianity as it has succumbed to the views of the Marxists, just as some had last century with fascism. The God worshipped and taught in these institutions is not necessarily the God of the Bible. We need to be alert. We need to ponder, question every word from the pulpit, and then check it against God's word. And I tell you, if it isn't there, or it's been manipulated, you're in the wrong church. In New Zealand, we see the government trying to introduce new ideals and radical thinking, which are foreign to us, and they are, but the majority have been taught how to accept them without protest. The march through the institutions is about altered perception, altering mindsets, altering the ability to think by oneself, and having a reliance on the government. In other words, They're making us stupid. It's not being harsh, but it's a true statement. Over the past 2 years, in the name of a pandemic, we've seen the governments of the world control us in a mass experiment. And anyone who's spoken out against it have been labelled as radicals, terrorists, conspiracy theorists, tin hat wearers. But you know what? There are still, thankfully, a lot of people like that. Their voices will remain, as did the watchmen on the walls of the cities of the Old Testament, as a warning of things approaching. The march through the institutions is not fake, it's real, and it's upon us all. But have faith. It's not the end, there's redemption and salvation. It's still ahead of us. You and I, we just need to remember the words of Jesus. Stay on the watch. These times must come before the return of the Son of Man. And looking forward to that day, I can tell you.
Thank you for watching. Help us to spread this message by sharing it within your own network. For more information, jump online to our website, christianvoicenewzealand.com.